Imagine a future where the AI around you isn't just a smart assistant waiting for your command. It's more like a truly trusted friend, maybe. A companion who not only knows your routines, but actually anticipates your needs, understands your subtle cues, and genuinely comprehends your world. Because it's been observing and learning from your every interaction. We're talking beyond just asking coffee or tea, to having that perfect cup already in your hand, exactly how you like it, without you saying a single word. That's a future where AI moves from being a reactive tool to a proactive, sort of integrated part of your life.
That's precisely the kind of, well, profoundly intelligent future that M3-Agent, this novel multimodal agent framework, is theorizing about. It's a significant, truly groundbreaking leap towards AI that can, as the researchers really describe it, see, hear, remember, and reason, much like humans do. This isn't just about processing information, it's about building a living, evolving understanding.
And that's our mission today for you, our listener. We're going to embark on a deep dive into this absolutely fascinating research. We'll unpack the groundbreaking capabilities of M3-Agent's long-term multimodal memory, explore the ingenious architecture that makes it all possible, and then dive into some truly mind-blowing ways it could positively, and maybe surprisingly, transform our world. We'll start by laying out the foundational mechanics and then smoothly transition to those really impactful real-world applications. So, okay, let's unpack this idea of human-like intelligence for a robot or an AI. What does that actually mean when we talk about a machine? Because when most of us think of AI today, it's often about very specific, isolated tasks, right? You ask it a factual question, gives you a precise answer, you tell it to set a timer, it performs that discrete action. But this paper really pushes beyond that, doesn't it? It suggests a far more integrated, almost intuitive kind of intelligence.
It absolutely does. The core premise here is that for a household robot, or, any autonomous agent for that matter, to seamlessly carry out complex tasks without explicit, continuous instructions, much like your insightful coffee example, it needs to do far more than just execute pre-programmed commands. It needs to form a dynamic, evolving memory of you and your routines. It needs to grasp the subtle, unspoken patterns of your daily life, the nuances of your preferences, and the ever-changing context of its environment. This isn't merely about processing information in the moment. It's about building a rich, evolving, and deeply interconnected understanding of its surroundings and the individuals within it. It's a shift from just being a tool to being a participant.
So it's not just do this, but more profoundly, understand my world so you can autonomously figure out what to do and maybe even anticipate what I might need next. That's a truly massive distinction from current AI capabilities, and the paper identifies 3 fundamental capabilities needed to achieve this vision, which almost mirrors how we ourselves learn and interact, correct?
Precisely. The first capability is the ability to continuously perceive the world through multimodal sensors. Think of it as truly seeing and listening to everything around it all the time, not just in isolated bursts. This isn't about grabbing a static snapshot or listening to a single command. It's about processing a constant, flowing stream of visual and auditory input, much like our own senses are continuously active.
So it's like having eyes and ears that are always on, always taking in data. But is it just raw data, or is there a processing layer even at that initial perception stage?
That's a great question, and it's key. While it is a constant stream, M3-Agent isn't just a raw recorder. It's immediately processing that input to identify key entities, faces, voices, objects, and their attributes. This initial filtering and recognition are crucial because, well, you can't just store every pixel or every sound wave. You need to start making sense of the chaos from moment one. The second capability, building on this continuous perception, is storing these experiences in long-term memory and, crucially, gradually building world knowledge. This is the remembering part. It's not just recording raw facts or a sequence of events. It's about abstracting general insights and rules from those facts over extended periods. For example, it's not just observing that you took coffee today, but inferring that you prefer coffee in the morning because it sees you do it repeatedly.
Ah, right. So it's learning the rules or the underlying logic of your personal world and the broader environment. And the third, equally vital capability.
The third is reasoning over this accumulated, rich memory to guide its actions. This is where the deep understanding translates into intelligent, proactive behavior. It's about using those deep episodic memories of past events and the generalized semantic world knowledge to make informed decisions, anticipate needs, and perform complex tasks autonomously, rather than just waiting for a direct, step-by-step command for every single action. An M3 agent is specifically designed from the ground up to embody all 3 of these goals simultaneously, enabling continuous learning and sophisticated reasoning in a dynamic environment.
That makes so much sense. The analogy of a child growing up, slowly absorbing the family's habits and the layout of the home, that really captures the essence of this continuous learning. But for many of us, the how is where AI often gets a bit opaque. So let's pull back the curtain a little and really understand the ingenious architecture that allows M3-Agent to achieve this human-like learning. The paper describes a really interesting architecture, almost like a dual brain operating in parallel.
Yes, that's a very apt analogy. If you look at Figure 1 from the source material, M3-Agent indeed operates through two parallel yet deeply interconnected processes: the memorization process and the control process. They function in tandem, constantly informing each other.
So on one side, it's like a super intelligent sponge, constantly soaking everything in from the real world.
That's precisely the memorization process. It continuously perceives real-time multimodal inputs. Think of it as constant, uninterrupted video and audio streams flowing into the system. It processes these streams to actively construct and update its long-term memory. This happens online, continuously, as the agent experiences the world. It's not a batch process where it learns after the fact. It's always learning, always absorbing, always refining its understanding as new data comes in.
And then on the other side, there's the action-oriented part, the one that translates all that learning into purposeful behavior.
That's the control process. This is the component that interprets external instructions, whether they're explicit commands or maybe implicit needs it infers. Crucially, it reasons over all that stored memory, accessing both historical events and generalized knowledge, and then it executes the corresponding tasks. What's truly critical about this dual process is its ability to enable dynamic, real-world interaction and adaptation. It can simultaneously learn from new experiences, continuously expanding its knowledge base, while also performing complex tasks that require deep historical context and understanding. It's not one or the other. It's both working in tandem, constantly refining its understanding of the environment and its inhabitants, allowing the agent to be truly dynamic, adaptive, and proactive.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how M3-Agent doesn't just store raw data. It goes a step further, processing and organizing that data into two distinct types of memory, which the researchers describe as analogous to human cognitive systems. This sounds like it's mimicking how our own brains categorize and utilize information.
You're right to highlight that analogy. They break it down into episodic memory and semantic memory, very much like the two primary categories of declarative memory in human cognition.
So episodic memory, that's like our personal highlight reel, isn't it? Specific moments, unique events, things you can pinpoint a when and where for.
Precisely. Episodic memory in M3-Agent records concrete events observed within the video streams. These are specific, time-stamped occurrences that capture the what, where, and when. For example, the source mentions, Alice takes the coffee and says, "I can't go without this in the morning." This isn't just a generic action, it's a specific person, a specific object, a specific dialogue at a particular point in time. Or, another example, Alice throws an empty bottle into the green garbage bin. These are singular, precise events that happen, capturing the unique details of that moment. It's the AI's personal, detailed logbook of lived experiences, if you will.
And semantic memory, then, that's more about general facts and concepts, the kind of things we know without necessarily recalling when or where we learned them, like knowing that the sky is blue or that coffee often contains caffeine.
That's it, exactly. Semantic memory derives general, abstract knowledge from these clips, abstracting beyond individual events. So instead of just the specific episodic event of Alice takes coffee at 7 a.m. on Tuesday, it processes that, and maybe many similar events, and infers the general rule or preference. Alice prefers to drink coffee in the morning. Or, from repeatedly seeing the bottle thrown into the green bin, it abstracts the world knowledge. The green garbage bin is used for recycling. This is about building a robust model of how the world works, its properties, and common practices, not just a record of specific instances.
That's a huge fundamental difference. One is a raw data point tied to a specific time. The other is an insight or a general principle derived from or applied to multiple data points. It's the leap from observation to understanding.
Absolutely. And both types of memory are stored in M3-Agent's sophisticated long-term memory system, which is designed to support diverse, multimodal information. So it's not just textual descriptions, it robustly incorporates faces, voices, and even textual knowledge, linking them all together for a richer, more integrated, and truly holistic understanding. This multimodal integration is vital because, well, real-world information isn't confined to a single sensory modality. It's a rich tapestry of sights, sounds, and interactions.
So how is all this incredibly rich, dynamic, and multimodal memory actually organized? Because if it's just a jumble of events and facts, no matter how detailed, it would be impossible to retrieve anything useful or make coherent sense of it over time. It would be like trying to find one specific book in an unorganized library the size of the internet.
That's where the entity-centric structure comes in, which is a truly key innovation that sets M3-Agent apart. Instead of just a chronological list of events or a loose, disconnected collection of facts, M3-Agent organizes its memory around central key entities.
Like specific people, important objects, or recurring locations.
Exactly. Think of it less as a linear log and more like a personalized, expanding knowledge graph. For example, all information related to the same person, their face, their unique voice signature, and all the semantic knowledge associated with them, like their preferences, habits, or even their role in a household, is connected and accessible within this graph format. So if Alice's face is recognized, all memories connected to her voice, her coffee preference, her recycling habits, and maybe even her typical mood are instantly accessible and robustly linked, forming a consistent profile.
That's brilliant. So it's not just a random collection of memories. It's a connected collection. It knows that the person who drinks coffee in the morning is the same person who throws bottles into the green bin, even if they've changed clothes or their hair is different today. It's building a persistent identity.
Yes, and these connections aren't static or predefined. They are incrementally established and refined as the agent continuously extracts and integrates new semantic memory from its ongoing observations. This dynamic process allows for a deeper, more consistent, and robust understanding of the environment and its inhabitants over incredibly long periods. It helps resolve ambiguities, like if someone changes their appearance or if two people have superficially similar voices. By building this robust, entity-centric understanding, M3-Agent can maintain truly coherent representations of the world, much like how humans build consistent mental models of people, places, and concepts over their lifetimes. It moves beyond isolated, fleeting observations to a rich, interconnected, and dynamically updating understanding.
Here's where it gets really interesting, I think, because AI has historically faced some massive, almost insurmountable hurdles when it comes to memory, especially with long, continuous streams of information. We're talking about challenges that have fundamentally limited how intelligent and adaptive AI can be in real-world, always-on environments. What exactly are those deep-seated problems that M3-Agent is designed to overcome?
Well, traditionally, even highly sophisticated video understanding methods have been optimized for processing longer, but still finite offline videos. Imagine a movie you watch from beginning to end. The entire video file is available, it can be processed, and even reprocessed multiple times if needed. But M3-Agent deals with a much more challenging, fundamentally different scenario. It continuously processes arbitrarily long, multimodal streams online in real time. Think of a robot operating in a home for months or even years, accumulating vast amounts of data. Reprocessing its entire historical experience every single time it needs to make a decision is computationally impossible, and indeed practically absurd. This is the monumental challenge of infinite information processing. How do you handle an ever-growing, unbounded stream of data without getting bogged down?
So it's like our own lives. We don't rewatch our entire life every time we need to remember something simple. We just access the relevant bits, and our brains don't crash from the sheer volume of past experiences. The AI needs a similar kind of dynamic on-demand recall without a full system reboot.
Precisely. And that leads directly to the second major challenge: world knowledge construction. Older methods for video description often fixate on low-level visual details. They might accurately tell you a man with a beard or a woman in a red dress, but they consistently miss the high-level abstract world knowledge. They won't tell you, that's Bob, he's Alice's husband, or that green bin is for recycling, a common practice in this household. This critical lack of higher-level context leads to pervasive ambiguity and inconsistency, especially over long time frames. If the man with the beard changes his shirt, a simple visual recognition system might treat him as a completely new entity, leading to a fragmented, incoherent understanding of the environment and its inhabitants. It's like having a million discrete observations but no overarching narrative.
So it's like seeing individual trees but never understanding there's a forest, or seeing a person's outfit today but not knowing their identity or habits over months and years. It's the difference between description and deep understanding. How does M3-Agent specifically tackle these profound limitations that have plagued AI for so long?
M3-Agent directly addresses these by leveraging its incrementally built, truly dynamic, and entity-centric memory structure. Instead of just describing individual, fleeting appearances, it constructs and refines rich, multimodal representations of key entities, whether they're people, objects, or locations. This ensures coherent and consistent long-term memory. It means if Alice changes her outfit, M3-Agent still knows it's Alice because it's linked her face, her voice, her habits, her preferences, and all her previous appearances under a single persistent entity ID. It continuously stitches together all these disparate observations into a cohesive, evolving whole over vast expanses of time.
So it stitches together all these disparate observations into a cohesive whole over time, allowing for a deep understanding of continuity and identity. It's a huge leap in cognitive ability for an AI.
Exactly, and the memory system itself is quite advanced. Instead of relying on a simpler, single-turn retrieval augmented generation, or array, which is a common method where AI retrieves some information and then generates a response based on that single lookup, M3-Agent uses reinforcement learning for multi-turn reasoning and iterative memory retrieval.
That's interesting. So reinforcement learning in this context isn't about teaching a robot to walk, but more about teaching it to think. What does multi-turn reasoning mean, and how does reinforcement learning guide that?
That's a great distinction. Think of reinforcement learning here not just as learning a skill, but learning the best strategy for exploring its own vast and complex memory. It's like teaching a detective which questions to ask next, how to follow leads, and how to combine clues effectively. If a human can't immediately recall an answer to a complex question, we don't give up right. We might try recalling related information, ask ourselves a different question, or trace our steps back through a sequence of events. M3-Agent does something remarkably similar. It can perform multiple sequential searches within its memory, refine its queries based on what it finds or doesn't find in previous turns, and iteratively piece together the information it needs, much like a meticulous researcher. This iterative process, guided by reinforcement learning, is key to its higher task success rates because it allows for more robust and flexible problem solving, exploring its knowledge base strategically, much like how we explore our own complex memories to find answers or solve problems.
This raises an incredibly important question. How do you even begin to measure this advanced human-like memory and reasoning in an AI? Because it sounds incredibly complex, far beyond what typical benchmarks might test. It's one thing to say an AI can do it, it's another to prove it systematically.
That's a critical point, and one the researchers addressed head-on. Existing benchmarks for long video question answering, or LVQA, primarily focus on simpler, often isolated visual understanding tasks. These might involve things like basic action recognition, identifying objects, or understanding simple spatial and temporal relationships. They might ask, what is the person doing in this specific clip? Or where is the object moving in this short segment? But they consistently leave a massive, gaping void in evaluating the higher-level cognitive abilities that are absolutely crucial for real-world agents to function intelligently and autonomously. Things like understanding complex human relationships over time, extracting generalized world knowledge, or reasoning across diverse visual and audio cues, often across long, non-contiguous stretches of time.
So they might tell you a hand is picking up a cup, but not Alice prefers coffee in the morning, which is why she's picking up that cup, just like she does every day. It's the difference between describing an action and understanding the motivation and context behind it.
Exactly. To bridge this very specific and crucial gap, the researchers meticulously developed M3-Bench. It's a completely new LVQA benchmark specifically designed to evaluate a multimodal agent's ability to reason with long-term memory. It's built to truly test these more nuanced, human-like cognitive capabilities that go far beyond simple visual parsing.
That M3-Bench itself has two distinct components, right? One for simulating real-world robot interactions and another for broader, more diverse web content. This seems like a smart way to cover different types of scenarios an AI might encounter.
Yes, that comprehensive approach was essential. There's M3-Bench Robot, which comprises a unique dataset of 100 real-world videos. These were specifically recorded from a robot's first-person perspective, meticulously simulating authentic scenarios where robots would operate, such as navigating a living room, working in a kitchen, or moving through a bedroom. What's truly fascinating is that human actors actually simulated the robot's behavior, wearing head-mounted cameras to capture that authentic first-person visual and auditory perspective. This provides incredibly realistic and contextually rich human-robot interaction data, allowing the AI to be tested in scenarios directly relevant to its potential applications.
So it's like actually putting the AI in the shoes, or perhaps the camera eye of a robot in a home, observing and interacting just as it would in a real domestic setting. And the other part, M3-Bench Web.
M3-Bench Web is a much larger and more diverse collection, with 929 web-sourced videos primarily from YouTube. These cover a truly diverse range of content and scenarios, often featuring rich narratives, complex inter-entity relationships, and extended storylines. This allows the benchmark to test the agent's ability to understand broader real-world contexts that aren't necessarily confined to a robot's immediate operational environment. It expands the scope of what the AI needs to understand to truly know the world in a generalized sense, learning from a vast array of human experiences and interactions.
That's a remarkably comprehensive approach, covering both specific robotic tasks and general world understanding. And to make sure they're truly testing these higher-level cognitive abilities, they define 5 specific question types for M3 Bench. Can you walk us through those? Because this is where we really see the human-like reasoning being put to the test, moving beyond simple recognition.
Absolutely. The 5 pillars of memory-based reasoning in M3 Bench are meticulously designed to target different, crucial aspects of an agent's understanding and ability to leverage its long-term memory.
Okay, first up, multi-detail reasoning. What does that involve?
This type requires the agent to aggregate and synthesize multiple, disparate pieces of information that are distributed across a long video. It's not just finding one fact, but collecting several facts that might appear far apart in the timeline and then combining them to answer a question. For instance, an example from the source is, which collection has the highest starting price among the 5 items shown? The agent has to identify each of the 5 items, recall its individual starting price from potentially different segments of the video, and then compare all 5 to determine the highest. This comprehensively tests its ability to track, retain, and synthesize scattered yet relevant details over time.
Then there's multi-hop reasoning. That sounds like it needs a genuine chain of thought connecting the dots.
It absolutely does. This involves step-by-step inferential reasoning across different segments of the video to reach a conclusion. You can't just jump to the answer. You need to follow a logical path, often deducing intermediate steps. An example is, which bubble tea shop did they visit after going to Dingsha?
Yeah.
The agent must first accurately locate the scene where they visit Dingsha, then chronologically follow the subsequent video segments to identify the next bubble tea shop visited. It tests sequential understanding, chronological reasoning, and the ability to link events in a causal or temporal chain.
Okay, cross-modal reasoning. This one immediately makes me think of linking what you see with what you hear, not just processing them as separate streams.
Exactly. This type requires reasoning across multiple sensory modalities, specifically combining visual and audio content to form a complete understanding. The example provided is something like, Bob shows the robot a red folder and says, the confidential document should go in this folder, then shows a white folder and says, the normal documents should go in this one. The question is, which folder should confidential documents be placed in? Here, the agent has to combine the visual cue of the folder's color with the specific spoken dialogue to correctly infer the intended placement. It critically highlights the importance of truly integrated multimodal understanding, where sight and sound are not isolated but contribute to a unified comprehension.
This next one, human understanding, seems absolutely critical for any AI that hopes to interact meaningfully with people, to be more than just a tool. It feels like a significant step towards emotional or social intelligence, maybe.
It truly is. This involves sophisticated reasoning about human-related attributes, such as identity, emotions, personality traits, motivations, or social relationships. It goes far beyond simple identification or action recognition. For example, is Lucas skilled at cooking based on his performance in the video? The video probably doesn't explicitly state Lucas is a bad cook or Lucas is a culinary genius. Instead, the agent has to carefully aggregate Lucas's behavior, actions, and perhaps even reactions across multiple cooking scenes, observing his outcomes and efficiency to infer his skill level. This is a very high-level cognitive function, incredibly similar to how we as humans assess and understand others based on repeated observations.
And finally, general knowledge extraction. This sounds like it's about forming universal truths or common sense rules from specific observations, like an AI building its own internal encyclopedia of how the world works.
That's precisely what it is. This evaluates whether the agent can extract generalized knowledge or common sense principles from specific individual events or observations. The example given is, a person is shown classifying different groceries into various shelves of a refrigerator. Then the question is, which shelf is suitable for storing vegetables? The agent observes a specific event of someone putting groceries away, and from that, it must infer typical storage rules or common sense knowledge, for instance, that vegetables usually go in the crisper drawer to stay fresh, or that dairy belongs on a specific shelf to answer correctly. It's about learning implicit, broadly applicable rules from explicit, singular observations, building a robust internal model of the world's common patterns.
So given these incredibly challenging and nuanced question types, which truly probe the depths of human-like memory and reasoning, how did M3-Agent perform against other state-of-the-art models? Did it truly live up to the promise of delivering superior human-like capabilities?
It did, and quite impressively so, validating the researchers' innovative approach. M3-Agent consistently outperformed all baselines, and we're talking about incredibly powerful large language and multimodal models here, including prompting agents using commercial giants like Gemini 1.5 Pro and GPT-4. These are models often considered at the cutting edge of AI, so for M3-Agent to surpass them is a significant achievement.
That's a pretty strong claim, especially considering the vast resources and training data behind those commercial models. Can you give us some specific numbers to truly illustrate this superiority?
Certainly, M3-Agent achieves significantly higher accuracy across the board compared to the strongest baseline, which was a sophisticated hybrid prompting agent using Gemini 1.5 Pro for memory processes and GPT-4 for control and reasoning. M3-Agent showed improvements of 6.7% higher accuracy on M3 Bench Robot, and even more impressive 7.7% higher on M3 Bench Web, and 5.3% higher on Video ME Long, which is another established long video understanding benchmark. These aren't marginal gains. They represent substantial, clear superiority in handling long-term memory and complex reasoning tasks.
Those are substantial jumps, especially on benchmarks designed to test these specific higher-level cognitive functions. And which areas specifically did M3-Agent excel in, among those 5 challenging question types we just discussed? Were there particular strengths that stood out?
M3-Agent showed particularly strong performance in human understanding and cross-modal reasoning. For instance, on M3 Bench Robot, which simulates those real-world robot interactions, it achieved accuracy improvements of 4.2% in human understanding and a remarkable 8.5% in cross-modal reasoning compared to the best-performing baseline. On M3 Bench Web, where the scenarios are even more diverse and complex, these gains were even more pronounced, with 15.5% and 6.7% improvements in human understanding and cross-modal reasoning, respectively, over the top baseline. This specifically highlights its superior ability to maintain character consistency over extremely long periods and effectively integrate information from both visual and auditory modalities to form a holistic understanding. It means it's not just recognizing a face or a voice, it's truly understanding the person, their habits, and their intentions.
That's truly impressive, especially the human understanding aspect.
Yeah.
That feels like a monumental step towards more intuitive, helpful AI. But what specific components or design choices were most critical to this success? Did the researchers figure out which parts of M3-Agent were truly indispensable to its superior performance?
Yes, they did. The researchers conducted rigorous ablation studies, which is where they systematically remove specific components of the system to isolate their impact on overall performance. These studies really underscore the crucial, indispensable role of both semantic memory and the reinforcement learning training.
So if they took out that general knowledge, that understanding of the world beyond specific events of semantic memory, what exactly happened to its performance? Did it just get a little worse, or was the impact more profound?
The impact was indeed profound. Removing semantic memory significantly reduced accuracy across the board, demonstrating its absolute necessity. For example, on M3 Bench Robot, accuracy dropped by a staggering 17.1%. On M3 Bench Web, which has even more abstract and complex scenarios, it was an even larger 19.2% reduction. This clearly demonstrates that extracting generalized knowledge and building abstract understanding, not just storing raw episodic events, is absolutely vital for the agent's overall performance and its ability to reason effectively. It's the difference between having raw observations and having a cohesive, functional understanding of the world that allows for generalization and inference.
And what about the reinforcement learning aspect? That's where the agent learns through a process of trial and error and strategic exploration, right? How critical was that for its success?
Exactly. The reinforcement learning, or RL training, which guides the multi-turn reasoning process we discussed, also led to very significant accuracy improvements. For instance, it boosted accuracy by a substantial 10.0% on M3 Bench Robot. This highlights that simply having a large, powerful language model or a vast memory isn't enough. The learned control the ability of the model to intelligently decide how to use its memory, which information to retrieve, and how to iterate on its reasoning process is absolutely key. It's not just about the raw capacity, but about the intelligent, adaptive application of that capacity, much like how human expertise isn't just about accumulating facts, but knowing how to use them effectively to solve problems.
Okay, this is where it gets really exciting. Now that we understand the core mechanics and how M3 Agent proves its capabilities, let's talk about the real-world applications. Because if M3 Agent can truly see, listen, remember, and reason like a human over long periods, the implications are genuinely mind-blowing. Let's start with autonomous robotics. We've talked about the coffee example, but let's go beyond that. What could this mean for robots operating day-to-day in our homes, or even in highly complex environments like warehouses?
Think about it this way. Current robots often operate on relatively static, pre-programmed maps or simple object recognition. They might know your keys are supposed to be on the hook by the door. But what if you were in a hurry this morning and tossed them onto the couch, something you never do? A typical home robot might endlessly search the key hook, report keys not found, and be completely stumped. M3 Agent, however, could be remembering the physical world in a far more dynamic and adaptive way. It wouldn't just know where your keys usually are, but it would have literally seen that fleeting moment you tossed them onto the couch. It remembers the visual input of your hand, the sound of the keys hitting the fabric, and stores that as a unique episodic memory. So when you later ask, "Where are my keys?" it doesn't just check the usual spot. It reasons over its entire history, prioritizing recent unusual observations related to that specific object. It's building a dynamic living map of your home, constantly updated by every single interaction. This is about real spatial memory, adapting to the fluid chaos and unpredictable changes of a human environment, making robots truly helpful rather than just rigid.
That's a game changer for practicality. No more losing your keys, even if the robot is the only one who saw where you left them. What about learning our habits and preferences in a much deeper, more nuanced way? This goes beyond simple programming to truly personalized assistance, doesn't it?
This represents a profound shift. Imagine a caregiver bot, for instance. It wouldn't just be programmed with a rigid schedule to give a patient medicine at 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Instead, through continuous observation and memory, it would recall the patient's individual routines and preferences over weeks and months. It would remember how they prefer their medicine, always with a specific glass of water, maybe with applesauce after breakfast, or precisely after they've finished watching their favorite morning news program. It could understand subtle cues about their comfort or discomfort, a slight facial grimace when moving, a particular sigh when tired, adapting its approach not based on preset rules, but on truly learned behavior and empathetic understanding accumulated over hundreds of hours of interaction. This moves from a robotic task doer to a truly sensitive, adaptive, and personalized assistant, anticipating needs before they're even articulated.
So it's not just a schedule. It's a personalized, nuanced care plan based on true understanding, almost like a human caregiver would adapt. And the ability to adapt to past errors sounds like continuous self-improving intelligence in real time.
Exactly. Consider a warehouse setting, which is a highly dynamic environment. A robot might learn not to take a specific route across the warehouse floor because it consistently encountered unexpected obstacles or human traffic there last week, even if that route seems shortest on a static map. Or it might remember a past incident where a certain type of fragile package was dropped or damaged when handled with the particular grip or acceleration. Leveraging this past experience, it would then dynamically adapt its grip, trajectory, or speed for that specific type of package in the future, learning from its mistakes to prevent recurrence. This implies a continuous process of learning from its own operational history, identifying suboptimal behaviors, and actively refining its operational strategy, leading to significantly higher efficiency, safety, and reduced waste over time without human intervention.
Moving from proactive assistance to proactive protection, let's explore enhanced surveillance. This is an area where AI is already widely used, but M3 Agent's capabilities sound like they could take security systems to a whole new level of intelligence and foresight.
They absolutely could, profoundly changing the paradigm of security. Current security systems are often reactive. They detect motion, or they might recognize a face from a limited database of known individuals. M3 Agent, with its long-term multimodal memory, could enable far smarter, more predictive security capabilities.
How so? What's the fundamental difference in how it would operate?
First, by continuously processing live video and audio feeds over extensive periods, perhaps weeks, months, or even years, M3 Agent could build an incredibly profound and nuanced memory of normal patterns within a given environment. This isn't just about knowing what a door looks like, it's learning what normal foot traffic looks and sounds like in an office building during work hours, the typical movements and voice patterns of authorized personnel, or the usual soundscapes of a particular public area throughout different times of day or night. It builds a dynamic, evolving baseline of everyday activity and expected behaviors.
So it understands what's supposed to be happening, the baseline of normalcy, rather than just what is happening in a given moment. That's a crucial distinction for anomaly detection.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this leads directly to its ability to detect anomalies with much greater sophistication and accuracy. Instead of just triggering an alert on any motion, it could spot subtle deviations from these learned normal patterns that might truly indicate an issue. It could recognize a person moving through the building in an unusual, hesitant, or maybe furtive way, or unusual sounds that don't fit the established soundscape, even if there's no overt threat immediately visible. This is far more sophisticated than simple rule-based motion detection or generic facial recognition. It's about understanding context and intent over time.
And the most compelling, almost prescient part, predicting threats. This sounds almost like science fiction, an AI foreseeing potential incidents.
It's definitely moving in that direction by enabling truly proactive security. M3-Agent could reason through complex scenarios by leveraging its extensive historical memory and understanding of patterns. For instance, it might identify potential intruders not just by their immediate presence, but based on historical behaviors that are inconsistent with known patterns or authorized persons. Imagine a scenario where someone attempts to access a restricted area using an authorized key card, but their pattern of movement, perhaps hesitating at multiple doors or avoiding eye contact to their voice when speaking to a guard, or even their overall posture is inconsistent with the person usually using that card at that time of day. M3-Agent, by recognizing these subtle multimodal inconsistencies against its stored memory of normal behavior for that individual or area, could flag this as a high-risk anomaly, potentially preventing incidents rather than just reacting to them after they've already occurred.
That's a truly powerful distinction, preventing incidents rather than just reacting to them after they unfold. It's important for our listeners to understand here that we're discussing the technological capability of M3-Agent to understand context and identify deviations over time, not necessarily endorsing specific use cases or the broader societal implications of advanced surveillance technology. Our focus remains squarely on the ingenuity of the research and the breakthrough in AI functionality.
Absolutely. The aim is to understand the profound potential of the technology, which, like any powerful tool, could have various applications depending on how it's deployed and, the ethical frameworks governing its use.
Moving on to another incredibly impactful and universally relevant area, personalized education. This has been a dream for educators for a very long time, the idea of truly tailoring the learning experience to each individual student. But what M3-Agent describes sounds like it could genuinely revolutionize individualized learning beyond anything we've seen.
It really could. Imagine AI tutors that are not just processing text inputs or multiple choice answers, but actively processing student interaction videos. This means observing how a student approaches a problem, their subtle facial expressions perhaps showing confusion, frustration, or a sudden flash of understanding, and even their verbalized thought processes as they work through a solution. The AI is truly watching and listening to the entire learning journey.
So it's like having a dedicated, hyper-observant tutor who's constantly observing every nuance of your learning process, picking up on cues that a human might even miss.
Exactly. And the profound power of M3-Agent here is its ability to remember progress and misconceptions over time, which is where most current AI tutors fall short. It wouldn't just know what a student got wrong on today's math quiz, it would remember how they got it wrong, the specific type of conceptual error they consistently make, their common pitfalls, or recurring conceptual misunderstandings over weeks or even months. For example, if a student consistently misinterprets negative numbers in algebra, the AI would have a persistent memory of every instance of that specific misconception across different lessons and problem types, creating a detailed learning profile. This historical context is absolutely vital for truly personalized and effective intervention.
This sounds like it could pinpoint the actual root cause of a struggle, not just the symptom, which is like the holy grail of tutoring.
Precisely. And armed with this deep, long-term entity-centric memory, the AI tutor could then deliver truly tailored lessons and interventions. It could adapt math explanations based on weeks of observed struggles with a specific type of problem, providing targeted exercises that directly address those persistent misconceptions by pulling up previous examples or related concepts. It could identify why a student is struggling with a concept. Perhaps they have a foundational misunderstanding from a month ago rather than just that they are struggling. For instance, if it observes a student consistently making a specific error in geometry involving angles, it can recall every instance of that error, link it to prior lessons, and generate a new explanation or visual aid that specifically targets that exact misunderstanding, ensuring the student truly grasps the concept before moving on. This could truly revolutionize individualized learning, making it genuinely adaptive, highly effective, and deeply personalized for each unique learner.
That would be transformative for students and educators alike. It moves beyond a one-size-fits-all approach to something that truly understands and adapts to each learner's unique journey, almost like a truly bespoke educational experience. We've talked a lot about what M3-Agent does and its incredible potential. Now, let's pull back the curtain just a little bit and briefly explore how it works under the hood. It all starts with something the researchers call the multimodal memory graph, which seems to be the central nervous system of its long-term understanding.
Yes, that's precisely it. The multimodal memory graph is the foundational structure of its long-term memory. It's implemented as an external database, allowing for unbounded growth, but it's far more sophisticated than a flat file or a simple chronological log. It's meticulously structured as a memory graph, as illustrated conceptually in Figure 1 of the paper, creating a web of interconnected knowledge.
So what exactly is in this graph? What are its components, its building blocks?
Think of it like a highly organized, interconnected network of knowledge. The primary components are nodes, and each node represents a distinct memory item. These can be of various modalities: text descriptions, captured images, or segments of audio. For instance, a node could be a recognized face, a piece of spoken dialogue, or a natural language summary of an event. Crucially, each node is richly attributed. It has a unique ID, its modality type, the raw content itself, like the image or audio clip, an embedding, which is a numerical representation used for efficient similarity searches and retrieval, a weight indicating its confidence or salience, and important metadata like precise timestamps. This meticulous organization allows for incredibly rich and diverse information to be stored and accessed.
And how are these individual nodes, these disparate pieces of memory, connected to form a coherent understanding?
That's where the undirected edges come in. These edges capture the logical relationships between different memory items. For example, an edge might connect a specific face node to a specific voice node if they belong to the same person, effectively linking their visual and auditory identities. Or it might link an episodic memory of an event, like Alice takes coffee, to a semantic memory of an object involved in that event. Coffee is Alice's morning preference. Crucially, the agent isn't pre-programmed with all these connections. It incrementally adds new nodes and edges, or updates existing ones, as it continuously processes new information, building its understanding over time.
What happens if it encounters conflicting information? Say, it sees someone in a new outfit, and for a moment, based on visual cues, it might think it's a different person. How does it maintain consistency in its memory, preventing these temporary misinterpretations from corrupting its long-term understanding?
That's a critical challenge in continuous learning systems, and it's ingeniously addressed through a weight-based voting mechanism. As the agent processes more information and observes consistent patterns, entries in its memory graph that are reinforced more frequently or consistently accumulate higher weights. These weights represent the agent's confidence in that piece of information. When conflicting information arises, for example, a temporary misidentification due to a new hairstyle, the entries with higher, more established weights are given precedence and can override conflicting entries with weaker, less reinforced information. This mechanism ensures the robustness and consistency of the memory graph over time, allowing the agent to robustly learn and maintain accurate, stable knowledge even when faced with occasional temporary local errors or ambiguities in the incoming data. It's how it resolves dynamic ambiguity and continually builds a stable understanding of the world and its entities.
That weight-based system is really clever for ensuring consistency, especially with dynamic real-world inputs where things are constantly changing. But to get those entity-centric memories, it must need some sophisticated tools beyond just raw perception. How does M3-Agent manage something as complex as recognizing the same person across different video clips, even if their appearance changes slightly, or linking their face to their voice to form a single identity? You're touching on a fundamental element of robust character understanding. M3-Agent is equipped with specialized integrated external tools for tasks like facial recognition and speaker identification. These aren't just generic off-the-shelf tools. They are meticulously integrated into the memory process to create persistent, unique identity references. So if it sees a face, it doesn't just describe a man with a beard. It tries to figure out which specific man and maintains that identification.
Exactly. When it extracts a face or a voice from an incoming video clip, these specialized tools process them and then return a persistent face seed or voice seed from its long-term memory. If it's a newly encountered face or voice, a new unique ID is created and stored. These identifiers become the stable, unambiguous references to characters throughout the agent's entire long-term memory, irrespective of superficial changes. This directly prevents the inconsistency we talked about earlier, where a man with a beard might be treated as a different person if he shaves, because the face remains constant.
And how does it link a specific face to a specific voice if they belong to the same person? Because sometimes you see someone speak and sometimes you just hear them from another room. Our brains do this seamlessly, but how does the AI connect these two distinct modalities?
That's precisely where its powerful cross-modal reasoning capability comes into play, specifically during the memory generation stage. M3-Agent can infer logical relationships between different entity IDs, for example. It can determine that a specific face side and a specific voice side belong to the same underlying person or character. Once it infers this equivalence, it immediately updates the connections in the memory graph, creating a strong, undirected edge between those face and voice nodes and effectively treating them as representing a single character with a shared, persistent characterid. Tables 15 and 16 in the source material beautifully illustrate this. They show how the model might connect visual cues, like a person's appearance, with auditory cues, their voice, to form a unified, coherent character identity. This allows the model to reason about characters much more consistently and holistically across different modalities, regardless of whether it's primarily seeing them, hearing them, or both, enabling a much richer and more stable understanding of individuals over time.
That's incredibly powerful for building a stable person model in the AI's mind, a truly coherent identity. So once all this rich, multimodal, entity-centric memory is built and consistently maintained, how does M3-Agent actually use it to answer a complex question or complete a nuanced task? How does the control process trigger and retrieve the precise right information from that vast, interconnected graph?
This is where the multi-turn reasoning process comes into play, which is a significant departure from simpler one-shot AI systems and truly mimics human problem solving. When M3-Agent receives an instruction or a complex question, the control process is triggered. Instead of a single instantaneous retrieval attempt, it autonomously and strategically retrieves relevant information from its vast long-term memory across different dimensions, whether it's specific past events, general facts about characters, or object properties in multiple turns. In the experiments, this process could involve up to 5 rounds of iterative interaction with its own memory system.
So it's like a sophisticated conversation with itself, exploring different avenues of its memory, refining its understanding with each step.
Precisely. The multimodal large language model, MLLM, within M3-Agent acts as a policy model for this internal dialogue. At each turn, it intelligently decides which search function to invoke based on its current understanding and the information it still needs. For instance, if it needs specific time-stamped episodic events, it might use search clip. If it needs more general information about a particular person or object, it might use search nodes to query a character ID or a general concept. This iterative process, guided by the MLLM's reasoning, allows it to progressively refine its understanding, hone in on the exact information needed, and build a comprehensive context to answer even highly complex questions that require deep inference.
Could you walk us through a concrete example? The source mentions a Demis case study that really illustrates this multi-turn reasoning and how it incrementally builds its understanding. I think seeing it step by step would be incredibly illuminating.
Absolutely. Let's use the Demis example from Table 17 in the source material, which asks the agent, is Demis a person with rich imagination or someone who lacks imagination? This isn't a simple factual lookup, it requires inference.
So what's the very first step M3-Agent takes when it receives this question?
In the first round, the agent immediately recognizes that the question is about Demis and that it needs to retrieve information related to him. Since its memory is entity-centric, its initial logical query to its memory system is, what is the character ID of Demis? It needs to link the name to a persistent entity in its knowledge graph.
And what does it find in that first search turn?
It successfully identifies Demis as character 4, a stable, persistent identifier for that individual in its memory. Now, in the second round, armed with this unique ID, the agent attempts a more direct query related to the core of the question. What is character 4's personality regarding imagination? It's trying to get straight to the point, asking for a direct attribute.
Does it find an answer right away? Or does its memory not have that explicit information?
No, in this specific case, the search result from the second round comes back empty. There's no direct, explicit mention of character 4's imagination or a creativity attribute stored in its current semantic memory. This is precisely where the multi-turn reasoning becomes absolutely crucial and where simpler models would likely fail. In the third round, the agent doesn't give up or return an empty answer. Instead, it intelligently re-reasons. It connects Tomas's identified role as the CTO of a company, which it might have learned in an earlier observation about him, to the general concept of creativity. It then generates a more targeted and inferential query. What are character 4's creative problem-solving methods? It's inferring how imagination might manifest in someone with his role.
So it's not just looking for a direct keyword match, but inferring that if he's a CTO, his imagination might manifest in his problem-solving approach. It's a very human-like deduction and a sign of true reasoning.
Exactly. And this more nuanced inferential query yields a relevant piece of semantic memory. Character 4 is innovative and forward-thinking, as evidenced by his interest in scaling drone technology for personal flight. This is the key insight.
That's a perfect match for the spirit of the question, even if it's not an explicit, yes, Tomas has imagination. So, armed with that crucial piece of semantic memory, what happens in the final step?
By the fourth and final turn, the agent has collected enough context and relevant information within its reasoning scope. It has Tomas's persistent identity, character 4, and a valuable semantic memory describing him as innovative and forward-thinking with an interest in scaling drone technology for personal flight. This is more than sufficient evidence for it to confidently infer and synthesize the final answer. Tomas is a person with rich imagination. This detailed, multi-step trajectory truly showcases the sophisticated, iterative nature of M3-Agent's memory retrieval and reasoning. It doesn't just search once. It thinks, reevaluates its approach, and searches again, progressively building its understanding until it can provide a nuanced, inferred answer.
So what does this all mean for the bigger picture of AI? That Tomas case study really brings it to life. It's not just retrieving a fact, it's piecing together a nuanced understanding through multiple strategic attempts, much like we do when we're calling complex information.
That's the critical takeaway, and indeed the major leap. The multi-turn reasoning process, as so beautifully exemplified by the Tomas case, is a major advance because it precisely mimics human cognitive flexibility. When we can't find an answer immediately in our own minds, we don't simply stop. We instinctively reframe the question, we look for related concepts, we draw inferences from other knowledge we possess, or we retrace a logical path. M3-Agent's ability to autonomously decide how to search its memory, to pursue different avenues, and to do so iteratively is what enables it to tackle complex, ambiguous questions that require deep context, inference, and the synthesis of distributed information. It moves beyond simple keyword matching or single-shot retrieval to true strategic reasoning over a rich, dynamically evolving knowledge base.
It's like having an internal dialogue to problem solve, rather than just a static lookup table. That being said, even M3-Agent, with all its incredible advancements, faces certain challenges. No research is truly complete. What are the hard cases that the researchers identified, and what does that tell us about the future of this groundbreaking research?
Yes, recognizing limitations is not just part of good science. It's essential for guiding future development. They identified two main categories of hard cases that current M3-Agent iterations still struggle with, pointing directly to exciting areas for future work. The first involves reasoning about fine-grained details.
Like, who wants to eat the ham sausage? That sounds like a very specific detail in a long video. Or, which coat rack should Emma's hat be placed on, the taller one or the shorter one? These are highly granular.
Exactly. These types of questions require the agent to extract incredibly precise, often subtle information from its observations. The fundamental challenge here is balancing detail retention with avoiding cognitive overload. You simply can't efficiently store everything, every pixel, every sound wave, every fleeting detail for arbitrarily long durations. It becomes computationally unmanageable. The researchers suggest that future work involves developing even more sophisticated selective memorization via advanced attention mechanisms. This would allow the agent to intelligently focus on and store only the most relevant details while actively filtering out the irrelevant noise, perhaps guided by task-specific world knowledge to prioritize what's important for likely future queries. It's about learning what's critical to remember, not just remembering everything indiscriminately.
So it's about learning what's important to remember, not just remembering everything. That seems like a very human-like filtering process. What's the second hard case that they identified?
The second category is special reasoning. Questions like, where can the robot get the snacks? Or, is Leo's water cup currently on the second or third shelf from the top of the rack? Highlight a current limitation. While M3-Agent excels at building rich semantic and episodic verbal memory, this text-based representation is generally less effective than visual or geometric memory for retaining precise spatial information. Our human brains excel at building intuitive spatial maps and understanding complex 3D relationships. For M3-Agent, relying solely on text descriptions of locations can lead to ambiguities or inefficiencies in precise spatial tasks.
So if the robot sees a complex room, it describes it to itself in words, but it needs a more visual, perhaps map-like understanding for actual navigation or precise object manipulation tasks. It needs to see the space in a way that words alone can't capture.
Precisely. The researchers propose that future memory designs might need to incorporate richer, more direct visual content, for example, storing specific snapshots or visual embeddings that explicitly support detailed spatial understanding, perhaps integrated with 3D scene graphs, rather than just relying on verbal descriptions of locations. This shows the ongoing dynamic nature of AI research. Even with such significant breakthroughs as M3-Agent, there are always new boundaries to push and new ways to mimic the incredible complexity and elegance of human cognition and perception.
So to recap our deep dive today, M3-Agent really represents a monumental step towards AI agents with truly human-like long-term memory and reasoning. By continuously seeing, listening, remembering, and reasoning over arbitrary multimodal streams, it's paving the way for revolutionary applications across so many domains.
Absolutely. From autonomous robots that can personalize assistance and adapt to your unique preferences based on learned behavior, to enhanced security systems that can learn normal patterns and predict threats by identifying subtle anomalies. And even AI tutors that can truly tailor education based on a deep, nuanced understanding of a student's long-term progress and misconceptions. M3-Agent is fundamentally pushing the boundaries of what AI can understand, remember, and achieve in dynamic, real-world environments.
This isn't just about making AI better at answering questions faster. It's about enabling AI to build a nuanced, deep, and consistent understanding of our world, anticipating our needs, and learning from continuous experience over arbitrary lengths of time. It's about a future where AI isn't just a powerful tool, but a truly insightful, adaptive, and perhaps even indispensable presence in our daily lives.
And that leads to a truly provocative thought. If AI can genuinely build world knowledge and understand humans over extended periods, learning and adapting in ways previously thought impossible, what new forms of companionship, productivity, or creativity might emerge that we haven't even conceived of yet? How will our own learning habits, our work processes, and even our daily lives adapt when information isn't just processed, but deeply understood and applied with genuine context and foresight by the intelligent agents around us? It's a future that promises profound, exciting, and perhaps even transformative change to the very fabric of how we interact with technology and with each other.